Here's what's coming up on today's show.
I can see how all those things came together to give me this perspective that I have today. And that perspective being that, my mission now is to help people change their lives, help them be on their best path for retirement.
It's easy to get lost on the way to retirement. Things like taxes, improper planning, and excessive market risk can all lead you astray from your goal of a successful and happy retirement. That's where Liz Whitteberry comes in. She's a holistic financial advisor and the founder of Best Path Advisors, and she can help guide you to a better financial path. This is Retire on Your Best Path with Liz Whitteberry.
Welcome to Retire on Your Best Path podcast with myself and Liz Whitteberry, and we're going to be talking about her. We're going to get to know her on our initial kickoff to the podcast here. She is founder and financial advisor at Best Path Advisors, and looking forward to having some great conversations with Liz about investing, finance, retirement, all the different things that make up the retirement journey. And we're going to get to know Liz this go around on our initial kickoff, initial opening podcast, if you will, with Liz. First of all, welcome in and thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out with me.
Good to talk to you, Mark. I'm glad to be kicking this off today.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here with you and going to learn a lot of good stuff. But I wanted to get started with this and talk with you as well as share with the listeners of the podcast a little bit about yourself and about your practice and things in general, so we can kind of get to know you and why you do what you do. So first of all, so let's just kind of kick it off with what is being a financial professional, a financial advisor? What's it mean to you? And we're going to get into how you got into this business and all that stuff, but what does it mean to you?
It means to me the ability to have an impact on people's futures, to help them have their best retirement. And I want to see people be able to have a solid retirement and be able to bless their family as well.
Right. And I know you're focused quite a bit on women and couples, and we're going to talk about that as well. So we'll kind of dive into all those little pieces and nuances. What got you kind of hooked on this industry, kind of where the bug came from, if you will?
That is a really good question, and I do get asked that a lot. What caused me to get into financial planning in the first place? Mm-hmm. And, we're all a product of our experiences. We know that. And in my case, back in high school, I had to take an accounting class. It was the only class really for this slot that I had to fill. I didn't have any dream whatsoever about being in accounting or in finance. Mm-hmm. I really didn't have much of a plan. I thought maybe I would be a flight attendant and travel the world and see some places. But
interesting. Okay.
When I got into that class, I found that I was really very good at the numbers, and I started working ahead and worked far ahead, and my teacher noticed. And so one day she pulled me aside and said, Liz, I've got this friend of mine who's a credit union manager, and he's looking for a girl Friday, and I'd like to give him your name if that's okay with you. And so I said that was okay. That was going to be better than working at a Burlington coat factory and hanging coats on racks. And,
right.
And so I got that job. And honestly, it was the first time in my life that I realized that there was more to finance than just making ends meet. I had grown up on a farm. I had, a lot of times the conversations that we were having when I was growing up was along the lines of how we were going to make food last to the next harvest, right, or have the propane not run out before the trucks were able to get down to our area again, because they didn't come through, just any time you wanted them to. They came through on a schedule.
On a schedule, yeah.
And so I could really see something about finance that I had never seen before. When people would come in to transact business, the gentleman who was the manager, he was an older gentleman, he would stop and share lots of insight with anybody that would listen. Share all sorts of nuggets of financial wisdom. And that made an impression on me, and I'm sure he touched a lot of lives over the years. But at that point in time, it really still was, it was just a job. One day, Ken said to me, I can't find enough work for you to do, Liz. You're too fast, so I want you to go down for a long time. I got married. We had 3 kids. I was being a room mom and, taking kids to activities and all of the things that you do as a parent, and really was working on my degree, my college degree, mm-hmm. and really hadn't decided yet that this was going to be the thing that I did. But one day, fast forward to 1999, and I realized that this needed to be more than a job. It needed to be my purpose. Now, on that day, I had overheard a conversation. I overheard a widow that was wanting some advice. And at the agencies that I supported, a lot of times the push was to get more clients, not to give advice that helped people.
Right.
The focus was really on how many clients they could get. And so I overheard the advice that this widow was given, and I really didn't agree with it, but I wasn't the advisor. I didn't have a right to say anything or be involved whatsoever. But at that point, I thought back to Ken. I thought back to my family growing up, and I realized I need to be an advisor.
Wow.
I need to do this.
Yeah.
Because I need to be the one that is giving advice that helps people be on their best path for their retirement, helps them make the best decisions that they can make for their life. And so that's what I did. I stepped out to become an advisor. And, thinking back, I can only imagine the difference it would have made in my own family if my mom, my grandma, my great-grandma had that kind of access to advice as well. My mom and dad got divorced when I was 3, and then my mom was widowed twice after that.
I was going to ask you, which is great. We're kind of going into the you a little bit, so which is fantastic. Is that what kind of got you in that focus of women and couples?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Her mom had been widowed when my mom was young. He served in the Korean War and didn't come home.
Right.
And so she was widowed when my mom was young, and my mom's grandmother, my great-grandmother, was also widowed for a very long time. So as I was growing up, I saw these 3 women that were very important to me, that were all very strong women. I saw them do the things that they needed to do to take care of their families, to have food on the table, to make sure that there was, heat in the winter, just kind of the basics of life. But I also saw that they didn't really have, looking back, that advice for how to plan for retirement, how to make sure that they had a secure retirement for themselves. And so I can only imagine the difference that would have made. And so listening that day to that conversation with that widow and that advisor really made me realize this is my purpose. I need to help women and couples make the best decisions that put them together on the best path for their retirement.
That's awesome. Yeah, sometimes we never know when it's going to tap us on the shoulder, do we?
Right.
Yeah, we're kind
Absolutely.
We're sitting there. You had these experiences within your own family, but then that outside experience with observing this conversation with this other lady really kind of just drove it home, and it probably all came flooding back at one time. So,
yeah, it's sort of that thing where one thing builds on another, and you don't necessarily notice it. These little things over time, like the advice that Ken gave.
Yeah.
But over time, at some point in time, you look back and you say, I can see how all those things came together to give me this perspective that I have today. And that perspective being that, my mission now is to help people change their lives, help them be on their best path for retirement. That's become a mission.
Yeah, the mission. So you've been involved in finance or financial, I guess, for quite a while then. So obviously this is going way back. So how long have you been, you're the founder of your company, Best Path Advisors. How long have you been helping, your clients and prospective clients?
That was 1999.
Oh, it was 99. Okay.
Yeah. So I got into the industry in 1985. That's the year that I was in high school, a senior in high school. And then in 1999 is when I made that decision to not just work behind the scenes, but actually work directly with women and couples.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So yeah, you're just a couple of grades in front of me then. So I wasn't a senior in 85. I was a freshman in 85. So there we go. So good stuff. So you shared with us a little bit about the business, about kind of what it means getting involved, a little bit about yourself. Anything, something you like most about what you do? Is there maybe something you can pinpoint? Obviously helping people, but is there, you've always been good with numbers, as you said. Is there something that kind of just kind of really gets you going?
I am good with numbers, and I do like the fact that I'm good with numbers, but the thing that I enjoy the most is education.
Okay.
I enjoy having that conversation that helps people understand why their best path is their best path. What is it about the decisions that are being made that really make that the best path for them? And I think I come by this, quite naturally. My mom was a teacher.
Okay.
Her mother was a teacher. Her sister was a teacher. And I want to make sure that people, they're not just told what to do. They understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, and how it's going to impact them, how it's going to impact their family, have a good understanding of the options and what really is that best.
I would say
I
would say you definitely come by it naturally then, if that's the case. So a financial educator, for lack of a better term, is probably where you're at. And which is, you spend a lot of time doing that. We were talking prior to getting things going here, and you were saying that, you spend a lot of your free time in a way that maybe many people don't. You enjoy learning. You enjoy just getting new information.
I absolutely do. And I say often that I cannot not be learning. It's something that if I go very long without learning something new, being in a course or studying something that I don't yet know, that I don't feel good about that. And
now,
so
does it stay in that realm?
That,
does it stay in the financial realm, or does it other things you like to learn as well?
It stays in any realm that I'm really focused on in my own life. I have in the past been a runner.
Okay.
I do run, but in the past I was very, very focused on running a lot of races. And when I was running the races that I ran, then I was also reading a lot about the best ways to train, the best gear, the best, everything that had to do with running. So I've got a whole bunch of books on running.
Fantastic.
But a lot of it is around the financial industry, financial planning, because I want to know absolutely everything that I can about what I'm doing. I want to be fully versed on any option that people have so that I can explain it well, so that I can review it well, so that I understand if it is or isn't a good choice for a particular person or their family. And so because of that, I have over the years, a weekend, just working on it over the weekends here and there, actually completed 18 official designations.
Oh, wow.
And a number of other courses. I have no idea how many that don't even end up with a designation. But again, it's because I love to learn. It hasn't been a burden. It doesn't even seem like it could have been 18, but it's been 18, just the number of years that have gone by.
Wow, that's amazing. So definitely a passion for education, information, and we'll kind of, for the sake of this podcast, that's going to be fantastic because we're going to be here to share a lot of the things that you've, learned and some of the things you've been doing, not only in your practice, but in just the things that you've learned through all these different courses and whatnot. Because at the end of the day, I think that's a great point. There's so many, at this point in time, there's so many advisors in the industry. Everyone's doing a podcast or doing some sort of informational thing. And sometimes it's there for sales tactics. Sometimes it's there for true education, right? There's all sorts of different slants to things. So at the end of the day, that was going to be my wrap-up question is what do you hope that people will learn from your show here, from the podcast? And it sounds like education is going to be in the forefront of that.
Absolutely. And that is, Mark, the reason that I wanted to do this podcast and co-host it with you so that we could have these good conversations about the things that really matter to people's financial futures.
Yeah.
To their retirement especially. So I do focus on retirement planning.
Okay.
And I work with women and couples who generally are 50 and above that have accumulated a nice nest egg, and now they're trying to figure out, how do we go from here? How do we go from working to being retired? How do we turn what we've saved into a stream of income? How do we minimize the taxes over retirement? We haven't even, we've been working, we haven't even thought ahead to what those taxes are going to be and the different types of accounts we have and how that's going to impact us. How do we live out the passions that we have to give to charities, give to our children, to our grandchildren?
A lot different in some places than somebody else might be doing. And it's the same thing with retirement. There's a lot of these universal things that truly do affect us all. But when you really start to break it down to the individual, you see how vastly different it can be from person A to person B,
right,
and so on and so forth. So pretty cool.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Liz, thank you so much for hanging out and sharing some great information with me. Anything else you'd like to add or that I didn't think to ask you before we wrap up?
Mark, I'd really just like to say to everybody that's listening, thank you for tuning in. We do appreciate you tuning in to hear these insights, and we plan to share many more insights in the coming weeks to help you be on your best path. So tune in again.
Thank you so much, folks, for hanging out with us here on the podcast. Find more information, if you'd like, at Liz's website, bestpathadvisors.com. That's bestpathadvisors.com. That's the name of her practice as well. So pretty easy to remember, bestpathadvisors.com. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Google, Spotify, whatever platform you happen to see this on. You can find it right in the search box of those apps. Or, of course, again, you can just find all the information at bestpathadvisors.com. And we'll see you next time right here on Retire on Your Best Path.
The preceding program is sponsored by Best Path Advisors, which is solely responsible for its content. Securities offered through J.W. Cole Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through J.W. Cole Advisors. Best Path Advisors, J.W. Cole Financial, and J.W. Cole Advisors are unaffiliated entities. The opinions expressed by Liz Whitteberry should not be construed as specific tax, legal, or investment advice, nor as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Neither J.W. Cole Financial nor its representatives provide legal, tax, or accounting advice. Persons who provide such advice do so in a capacity other than as a registered representative of J.W. Cole. Investing is subject to risks, including the loss of principal. Due to volatility within the markets mentioned, opinions are subject to change without notice. Information is based on sources believed to be reliable, however, their accuracy or completeness cannot be guaranteed.